Jason saw his mother beheaded and he took his revenge. A revenge that he'll continue to seek if anyone ever enters his wilderness again.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another classic film review. Today I'm taking a look at the 1981 horror sequel, Friday the 13th, Part 2. The film is directed by Steve Miner and it stars Betsy Palmer, Amy Steele, John Fury, Adrian King, Kristen Breaker and Stuart Charmo. Right. This is my second Friday the 13th review. I am starting to now watch and review all the Friday the 13th movies. The first one is already up on the channel if you want to check that out. This is probably one of the horror franchises I know least about, and I have seen, and I said this last on my first review, I don't think I've seen a Friday the 13th film all the way through. Any of them really. I've seen snippets of all of them, so this is going to be an education for me watching all these. So what is Friday the 13th Part 2 about? Well, surprise surprise, we have Jason who turns up for the first time in this franchise. As you know, spoilers if you don't, it was his mother who was the killer in the first film, and he made an appearance right at the end. This time round, it's set 5 years after the first film. In actual fact, in reality, it was only filmed. It came out 1 year after the first film. This time round, for some inexplicable reason, they've opened another camp right next to Crystal Lake. Even though after what happened 5 years previously, this has been allowed to happen. So a lot of camp counselors turn up as per usual to get systematically slaughtered by Jason one at a time. It doesn't really get any more complex than that, and I suspect many of the other films will follow a very similar pattern. I don't know, I might be wrong. So, what are my thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 2? Well, all joking aside, I actually was a little bit more impressed with this than I was the first one. This felt a little bit more polished. I felt the performances were better. Not that, any of these are, obviously hard-hitting, serious actors or anything, but I don't know, this clicked with me a little bit more than the first one did. The first one felt, and it's quite odd to say about a 1980 film, but it felt dated. It didn't feel as though it had dated particularly well. And while this one had a similar feel to it, I don't know, I think this one felt, a little bit better made than the first one, I suppose. Now, obviously, we have Jason making an appearance in this one for the first time. We do get Betsy Palmer, Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, who turns up for a couple of scenes, like flashback type stuff. I think she filmed her stuff within half a day or a day, something like that. So, and we've got Adrian King, who was the final girl in the first film, turn up for a brief cameo at the beginning of the film, basically to get taken out by Jason. How he knows where she lived, who knows, but he did, turned up and took her out. And the idea here is that Jason apparently saw his mother beheaded at the end of the first film, and he's not best pleased about that. So he is taking it out on anybody that comes within striking distance of Camp Crystal Lake. So these camp counselors basically have had it. So you've got the usual stuff, you've got them telling stories around the campfire of Jason and all this kind of stuff, and trying to scare the crap out of each other, and some of them trying to be horny, some of them trying to get with each other, and you get the usual generic kind of characters here, and then the killing starts, and it is Jason doing the killing, and as you would expect, some of the kills are quite inventive, quite brutal, and quite impactful, some of them. I'm certainly enjoying this franchise for that, the creativity in that side of it. and this first introduction to Jason and his look, with the bag on the head, it is interesting. It's my understanding that the iconic hockey mask makes its appearance for the first time in the following film, in part 3. So I'm quite looking forward to checking how that happens in that film. And we even get to see what Jason looks like at the end of this film, and surprise, surprise, he's not a looker. I thought this was, very watchable. Yes, it followed exactly the same pattern. Yes, it doesn't make a lick of sense as to how, these kids or this camp is allowed to exist right next to, the mass slaughter that happened years previously. But it's a horror film, you know what I mean? You've got to kind of suspend your disbelief to a large degree, I suppose, here. Like I say, it's got the inventive kills. It actually looks quite pretty at times. And it's got the iconic, Friday the 13th music sort of thing that's going on through it. So it does a good job. I mean, Steve Miner, I actually think is probably, you could argue, quite an underrated director. I mean, he's done some decent films over the years. House, Warlock, Halloween H2O, which I think is a very underrated Halloween film. In my opinion, I think it's one of the stronger ones before they obviously changed all that with the newer ones that came out just a couple of years ago. So it works pretty well. And what I also quite liked about this is I couldn't exactly pin who was going to be the final girl as quickly as I thought I could, sort of thing. It wasn't who I expected it to be. Not that I was placing bets or anything like that, but and it wasn't presented here, Jason, as like this unstoppable supernatural killing machine. I mean, this is what I do whenever I kind of get into a new franchise sort of thing, or rewatch a franchise, and I kind of absorb everything I can find about the films. So I like watch documentaries on them and stuff on YouTube, and I've seen the theories, that Jason was brought back to life by his mother using the book from the Evil Dead, so he's actually a Deadite sort of thing, Jason, and how true that is, it's probably not, but it's a nice and interesting theory, and it would certainly explain his superhuman abilities as the films progress. But I'd diverse a little bit, I suppose. I'd love to hear your theories. If you've got any wild theories that you've heard, let me know in the comments about the franchise, and let me know, which are your favourites, which ones I've got to look forward to that actually are really a lot of fun to watch, or are they basically just all rinse and repeat, which I'm probably going to struggle with if that's the case. I found that a little bit with the Final Destination films. I enjoyed them to some degree, and then basically it's just the same film made. It's just rinse and repeat stuff, and I struggle. I haven't even watched the last one yet. I will eventually watch it and review it, but it just feels like you're rewatching the same film over and over again. So I thought I'd give it a break before I rewatch that one. So yeah, I thought this was a slight improvement, in my opinion, on the first one. That's not to take away anybody's love and affection for the first one. Obviously, it's the first in the franchise and regarded as a classic, and rightfully so, I guess. I just thought this was of a little bit better quality, and I think Steve Miner has got a little bit more of an eye in regards to like horror and that type of stuff, and I think he's a very underrated director personally. So yeah, thanks for checking out this review, guys. I'm looking forward to checking out Friday the 13th part 3, and I will bring you that review as soon as I've done it. So thanks for joining me.